so don't say any swearing words. You never got my video back? So it was working. Okay, so here's the thing where I'm gonna unplug the wrong camera. I didn't unplug the wrong camera. That's awesome. Yay me. Okay, plug it back in. It did on my side too. No, you missed. Oh, and it's frozen. And it's like the camera's. Well, you just have to watch the stream, and then yeah. Okay, so now I missed a little pop-up that came up with the URL, so I need to get that. Move my computer. Okay. So let's do this. Do that. Showing up is 403. No, that's not right. Where? Live streaming? Where's the live one show up at? So what's the URL files? So I can see the page and I can see that it says it's going, but there's no actual video on there. Shut up. Okay, so that worked. Oh, they've got a great new URL for it. Shut up. Okay, so let's do that. There. I just lost your video. Are you still there? I lost you for a second. So I definitely understand what you like about the whole when you're making the picture move, it's easier to move the window than the... Okay, so say something and I've said something. Let's make sure the audio is working. I may hang up on you again. I know what kind of a day. You're like one broken shoelace away from just completely freaking out. So we'll see how this goes. I might. You and I handle these things completely differently. So what did you MC? Gotcha. Okay, so none of you can hear Shane and I'm quiet. Yeah, let me. Okay, so let me tweet this. Well, I'm tweeting the link so that we can get more people in. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so tweet is sent, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay, so for sound, so they're getting me, they're not getting you. Okay. So for audio, okay, so I see why they're getting me bad. Okay, so they should have my audio now. And then for you, we need, where's that setting at? Oh, gotcha. So what's the sound setting in Windows that we need? Output. Okie dokie. All right, so I think that is all set up. Is the sound good now?
Also excited that Shane has returned.
They're not.
Like The Rock returning.
It's not like that at all. Not even a little. Did I tell you I watched Rampage? I watched that, I think, Gatsby TechCon. It was not as horrible as I expected. I mean, it was horrible, but I expected it to be, you know, horribler.
Right out here, I watched Jurassic World or something like that. It was as horrible as I expected.
I've not watched any of the Jurassics since about 1996, so I don't. I'm not up to speed.
Yeah, the first one I'd watched, it was a free movie on a plane. I was like, let's watch this.
And that makes me sad because I like Chris Pratt, so I want him to do good, fun stuff.
I mean, the special effects are fine, the acting is fine. The story is just stupid. It's like, who wrote this?
Yeah. I don't know if I ever told you about this. I listened to a podcast a year or so ago. It was like a hunting podcast or something. Because, you know, that's my gig. And
clearly.
Yeah, it's clearly me and Ted Nugent. But it was this hunting podcast had a scientist who specialized in cloning. She'd written some books on cloning and all that kind of stuff. And so he was talking to her about cloning and DNA and all that. And of course, Jurassic Park has to come up because there's just no talking about cloning with all that. And it was funny listening to the boring science of cloning compared to the Hollywood stuff. So I came out of that with just a few things. Number one, she said, we will never be able to clone an animal that doesn't exist at the time you clone it. So there's no bringing animals back. If it doesn't exist the day that you clone it, it can't be cloned. The other thing that she said was that DNA starts breaking down immediately. So any DNA that you get that's more than like 5 minutes old is going to be broken and disintegrating. So you can never get like full DNA of a saber-toothed tiger, even if you could clone it, because there's none alive right now. And the thing that she said, the third was for Jurassic Park specifically, she said the fact that it was, at least in the first one, I don't know about the new ones, that it was in amber was hysterical because amber is like the worst material ever because it's so porous that like everything seeps in and seeps out and the DNA gets all messed up like immediately as soon as it gets captured. So I'm like, oh, that was good. Learned a lot. Which
is interesting, though, that she would, I mean, and maybe you're paraphrasing, but that she would use the words like never, right? I would never, I would not believe that anyone would say we could never clone an animal that doesn't exist. She had a technology.
She had a backup for it. So her backup reasoning was, number one, there's no solid DNA. And she gave a bunch of examples. Now, again, that could happen, but just the way DNA is, they would never get a full, DNA. She said number 2, that the way an animal develops is not determined 100% by DNA. And so the fact that like if you found a completely intact woolly mammoth genome, there's no woolly mammoths to give birth to it. And the environment that the egg is nurtured in has a lot to determine how the animal is. So you'd have to stick it in something that's similar to a woolly mammoth, that's like an elephant, but it's not exactly the same. The environment's not the same. The food they eat's not the same. There's just all these other things. So what you would end up getting was something that looked like a woolly mammoth, but wasn't, because the environment that it was, it's the whole nature nurture thing. So she had a lot of good reasons for it.
I get it. I just feel like in that space, never is a tough word.
It is. It is. Never's a really long time. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I believe it. I believe she had perfect scientific answers, but man, I don't know. The world has taught me nothing. It's that all that science fiction stuff seems to find a way to work itself out.
Certainly, there are things possible today that I would have never thought possible. And then there are things that should be possible that aren't, like us being able to do this damn podcast 2 weeks in a row without technical problems.
Yeah, but see, but that falls under the known unknown. That is not an unknown known. That is a known. Right? I need to listen to that skit. I haven't listened to that in a while. That one cracks me up. Known knowns. Yeah, unknown unknowns. It's really the known unknowns.
I thought it was the unknown unknowns.
Yeah, whatever it is, right? I mean, I haven't listened to it forever, but it was just because then was it Boondocks, right? Boondocks did the skit of it, and I'm like, yeah. What?
Yep.
What? Say what? One more time. What?
What language do you speak?
Yeah, language goes really south. It's great.
Yep. So I think we're close. Chat room says it sounds good. I'm sharing my screen, which terrifies me. Lori, I assume.
I can see you now, man. I mean, this.
You can?
7:59 is all just coming together.
That's right. You're like super early for you out there. Holy cow.
Yeah, I got up to 5:30, I think.
Yeah, but that's like noon your normal time, so that's not so bad.
Well, yeah, but if I went to bed at a decent hour, I didn't eat dinner until like 10 p.m. this time. I mean, that's like tomorrow. Yeah,
that's like Saturday morning Eastern time. It's.
Yeah, you know, one of the weird thoughts I was having the other day. You want to hear?
Always.
I'll save this one for the show. Make a bullet point for Shane's weird thought.
Go ahead.
I'm on it.
Oh, that's too funny.
You want to do that after?
We can do it wherever, dude. You're having a rougher day than me. You do whatever you want. You be you, Shane. I'm just along for the ride today.
That's a scary proposition. When I was emceeing, there was too much of Shane being Shane, and people were like,
"Yep."
We had those. Remember the cube? We had one of those, but then it didn't work. It was weird. So then I went to interview people in the audience by making them hug me. It was.
Yep. You just.
Mic.
Yeah. What did you just paste into?
I unpasted. I didn't know.
There you go. Don't do that. There you go. All right, let's kick this thing off before it gets any uglier. Lori's probably ready. All right, so counting down 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Todd and Shane's Cloudy Podcast number 406, recorded live Wednesday, October 17th, 2018. Quick show notes. All of you are probably saying podcast 406, but when I go out to the feed, I don't even see 405. Of course, by the time you see this, it will. But anyway, 405 is almost done. I finished rendering it out today. I'll be uploading it here in a minute. I've been busy with a couple of customers and just have not been able to indulge myself in rendering out podcasts. But it is nearly complete. So we're at the building anticipation. 405 was a great one. It's gonna. Let me remember what we talked about.
No one does. You know, one of the things I realized that we've really been kind of missing out. So remember with 404, we kind of played with the whole,
couldn't find it. Yeah.
But we haven't really ran with this, and I just looked up. I had no idea what a 406 is, but a 406 is a non-acceptable security error of some sort. And I mean, if non-acceptable doesn't explain our show, I don't know what does. So I really feel like, if we were better at this podcasting thing, we would have had like a whole series of all these 400s. We'd had a joke for every one. But
well, I think we've got time now. So go out there, look out 407, 408, and let's get cracking on that. I like this idea. When the 500s come, that's going to be fun. There's a lot of good 500s in there.
We'll make that a viewer task, right? You viewers, you need to send us, your best 407 web response jokes, which now I have to go.
Though in reality, so we'll record 407 in a week. So we're going to be looking for your 408, 409, 412. Those jokes, if you get those in now, when you hear this, which is probably in December, that's when we're going to need those.
407 has something to do with proxy servers or web proxies. So,
we could have somebody else do the podcast next week. 407.
I mean, a proxy for you and I would probably be a good.
It'd be tough to get worse. And then for show notes, but something that's always getting better, and it's all the products at SysKit. I've gotten to pitch those to somebody in the last week. I was doing some stuff with customers, and they were very verklempt about this particular issue, and how do we find this, and this. And I let them vent. I let them get it all out, and I'm like, have I got good news for you? The folks at SysKit, they make very small signs, but they make very big products, and they are the solution to a lot of problems. So thanks to the folks at SysKit for making such good products and being a sponsor of the show.
That is too kind of him.
Oh my goodness, I have an incoming call.
Uh-oh, who is it?
Oh, it's Walgreens. Holy cow, my medicine must be in.
Oh, nice. Is that for the one thing or for the other one?
Well, it's a thing off the thing. I'll tell you about it. Yes. But the good news is either that's the medicine or it's them telling me that I'm just out of luck. Could go either way. Speaking of being out of luck, Shane, let's start this podcast with your tale of woe.
All right, folks. I promise this show is going to probably get dark at some point.
You didn't send the tweet that you were going to send either, did you?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't.
Yeah, they've already replied and said DM me. I'm going to reply why. You just say no.
Send them the tweet to the show. Get them in here.
Here's your chance. If you will join us live for a press briefing, I will happy to share this for you. But all right. So one of the things that you guys all know is that Todd and I have been talking about cord cutting.
Cord cutting.
See? Too angry to even talk.
Yeah.
For a while now. And if you may remember from our earlier chats, right, the very first cord cutting service that I tried was Sling. Mm-hmm. I liked them. I wanted to work with them, but they, the way that their channel lineup did, it just wasn't the best fit for my region. Right? I was like, their service is good. They're just, for my particular region, PlayStation View has the best channels available. The local channels, right? The ABC, NBC, that type of stuff. So that's what we switched to.
Yeah, and before you go further, because I know this is going to go down a dark hole, I want to set this up and say that their coverage or lack of coverage for any of these providers is not their fault. So, as you and I discovered, a year and a half ago, whenever we did this, the Sling's local coverage differs from YouTube's, differs from PS View's, and it differs from year to year as contracts expire and as companies figure out what they're going to do. Like Disney had a bunch of stuff on Netflix, and they're pulling that off because they're going to make their own. The other thing is the local stations, ABC, CBS, NBC, we'll go ahead and include Fox. They have different markets depending on where they're at. So there's this idea of owned and operated stations. They're licensed differently than other ones. So, I mean, it's this whole huge mess. And as much as we would love to hate on a particular, I can't believe Dish Network lost my CBS. Man, that is not Dish Network's fault. There are just greedy companies trying to maximize profit on every end of that. So we didn't go in. So, and I bring this up because we didn't go into this blaming any provider for any of these kind of things. It's just the way that it is, just how it is. So Sling is completely neutral on this going into this thing, yeah. Yeah,
right, and that's why our advice has always been is you just need to figure out the list of channels you must have, and then you go and you do the trials, right? You figure out, does this one work for me, this one work for me? And so as we were doing, we did that, so I tried Sling, and to start a free trial with Sling, I think I had a 14-day free trial. You have to put in a credit card.
Yep.
That seems legit, no problem. So I put in my credit card. I tried it. It didn't meet my needs. No big deal.
Again, not their fault. Not their fault.
Nope. So I terminated my account.
Okay.
Right?
Seems a reasonable thing to do. You tried the trial. Didn't work out. That's why the trial's there. Yeah.
They sent me an email that said, "Hey, sorry you terminated your account. But if you ever want to come back to us in the future, let us know." Cool.
Yeah. And I remember talking to you about this because you switched over. Yeah, it's all no hard feelings. It's all good.
So fast forward to last Friday, and I will go ahead and say something that probably makes Todd cringe, right? But I am not the best at checking my bank statements or my American Express cards for transactions and activity.
Yeah, we're all guilty of that. I would judge you on it if I could, but
But so for some reason, I was in there looking for something else, and I saw a charge from Sling at the top. I'm like, what the heck?
I remember those guys. I used them like 8 months ago and canceled my subscription.
Yeah, so American Express got a great little feature, search for Sling in your transaction history over the last 24 months.
Can't say enough about American Express. We like them.
Yes. And starting on December 4th, the day after I received the termination email confirmation, Sling has been charging me on the 4th of every month since. I'm like, that's pretty interesting.
That seems an odd thing to do to somebody who canceled your service.
Yeah. So I open up a little support chat thing. Person's perfectly nice. So yeah. Oh, no problem. We'll refund your stuff.
Sweet.
Cool. So, it takes 3 to 7 days, which we all know is a complete lie, but they like to hold on to your money for a little longer.
When they're just pushing you off, hoping you'll forget. Yeah.
So the refund post, I'm like, victory, this was solved, no big deal. And I'm like, wait, they refunded me $58.63. Not exact numbers, pretty close.
Yeah.
So I get back home with support. I'm like, hey, you refunded October, but I need you to refund all the way back to December.
September, August, July.
Yeah, I got my 6-year-old out to start doing the months for them. And they're like, we can't do that. I'm like, okay. So they said, so send an email to escalations. So I sent a nice, polite email to escalations like, hey, here's the whole story. Pretty much what you guys did. I sent them a copy of the email. I sent them the posted charges from American Express. Nice, clean package, checked all the boxes. They just replied back and said, we can't find an amicable resolution of this, so no, we're not going to refund your money. But thanks. Let us know if we can help in the future. I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, can you explain yourself? Can you... At some point, one of the support people said, oh, yeah, well, someone used your account in, take a month. I don't know.
March.
Somewhere along the way. I'm like, how is it my fault that I terminated my stuff and you didn't turn off my account? And what I'm assuming happened is one of my kids on the Roku pressed on Sling TV, and apparently Sling TV just said, oh, hey, and let them right in. I mean, the onus was not on me to turn off my account once I had said terminate, and they said terminated.
Yeah.
It is not my job to go figure out everywhere that username and password was ever used and make sure that it doesn't work. Right? That's the whole point of terminating an account.
Right. There's no reason for you to think that it should work because you're not paying them anymore. Yeah.
So their response is just basically no explanation, no story, no justification, just no.
So what is your next step then?
Well, so one of my next steps was to have this little segment.
Checking that off.
Yeah, we're going to talk to them on social media a little bit, and I mean, because basically, right there, I can't, if I try to take them to court, right, it's going to cost me more than $588.63 that they owe me. So I'm just going to, I guess, continually contact them until I feel like I've gotten $600 of their time out of it. I don't know what else to do.
So Kyle in the chat room is asking why you haven't fought it with your credit card?
So I reached out to American Express. This was what I was doing before Todd blew up trying to get the show hosted. And the credit card will basically only do 60 days. So I'll be able to dispute 2 of them. But I can't, American Express won't go back to December and do it. And which is interesting, so a little bad mark for American Express. On the site, it says, as far back as May, it offers me the option to dispute. But if you fill out the thing, when you get to the end, it's like, oh, you waited too long. So I guess you can say I take some of the blame because I don't check my American Express every month. But
yeah, there's a little bit there. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. That I mean, the fact that you got the letter from them that says, "Yep, your stuff is canceled," man, there's just a certain amount of societal trust, you know. And when you get an email from a company that says, "Hey, we're not charging you anymore," it's reasonable to assume they're not going to charge you anymore. I mean, that seems.
It does, right? I mean, I mean, I would be fascinated to find out, right? I mean, how does this not fall under, you know, I mean, basically they stole my credit card at this point, right? I mean, because we terminated our relationship, and then they just decided to start charging me. I mean, how is that anything short of theft? As I would love to hear an explanation. So
Interesting about that. I mean, yeah, I'm completely on your side, so don't get me wrong. In the local register, the Des Moines Register, the local newspaper here, they've been running a story on housing contractors not doing work. So, you know, somebody will give them $100,000 to start building a house. They won't build the house. They'll take off with $100,000. I feel like it's the same way. I feel like that's a pretty obvious theft issue because you gave them something for something and they didn't give you the something. Turns out that it is not theft. It is a civil thing. It is a contract dispute. So it's not so much a theft thing. It's a disagreement on what the terms of the contract were, which seems pretty ridiculous to me. But there's just this whole series of articles in the paper of these contractors are doing this. And people that get screwed like you did go to the state, go to the attorney general, and the attorney general's like, it's not criminal. It's not theft. It's a contract thing. It's civil court. Take them there. So I'm guessing this falls into that ridiculous category too.
Oh, I'm certain it does, right? This is, right, and this goes back to the big company lobbying as well, right? They've written all these laws that make it so that basically us, the consumer, that the, you know, our elected officials are supposed to protect are the least protected in these type of scenarios, right? All of the onus falls on us, and we're pretty much just...
Yep. Stacy in the chat room is suggesting that you call Judge Judy, and I can't think of a better solution than that. Get him down there.
Judge Judy might come and join the podcast, right? I mean, she's probably gotten to that level in her life.
That would be great. So yeah, you know, part of this was cathartic for Shane, and he's been waiting for like an hour since him and I have been on the phone here talking about this. So it's good to get that out. But in reality, and I was telling Shane when he first told me about this, in the last 7 days, I've had 2 people talk to me about cord cutting. And one of those conversations was exactly around this topic. Which carrier should I get? And had I known this, you know, 4 days ago when I talked to that person, it would have been a very different conversation. So we mentioned this partially to let Shane vent some steam, but partially because we do talk about this and people ask us these questions. And now one of our answers will be, whatever you do, don't get sling. And if you do get sling, give them a disposable credit card. And if you don't give them a disposable credit card, check your credit card account with a fine-tooth comb every month for 8 months, because those sneaky little devils are going to try to charge you.
Yeah, right. I mean, and that's, I'll be interested to see. So the escalation team, right? Just, I mean, it literally, I should read you the email, but it basically said their response to my long thought out, detailed explanation was, we can't come up with an amicable solution. There was no like, you're wrong here. There's no contract, you know, just nah.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, you got us. We're not going to pay you. You're totally right. We're not going to pay you. But let us know if you ever want to give us money again. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it sounds like I'm a good customer.
Yeah, one of the best. Yeah.
So I look forward to, you know, the social media team. So, you know, they're a little more responsible. I think they appreciate more the fact that, upsetting people like us who have a voice, right? We have a small microphone, but
very little.
You know, we have a microphone. You know, what's that worth? Is our bad publicity worth $588.62?
I don't know. Well, so we've got that. Let's talk about fun things. Let's talk about happy things. Let's bring the level of the show up for anybody that we haven't already lost with the last 15-minute rant here.
Oh, they like anger.
Angry Shane. So what are you doing now? Where are you at? What are you doing?
So I am in an awesome hotel room. I got an upgraded suite because I'm important. In Phoenix, Arizona, for the Power User Summit. I don't know. Use the word Powers User and Summit in like different combinations. That's the thing I'm at.
Okay.
But it's a really cool conference. There's like 7,000 people here, and it is the accumulation of a Dynamics 365 business user group that has thousands and thousands of people. It turns out that Dynamics is a really popular thing.
You know, that's one of those things, I hear about it all the time, but it never really sunk in how popular it is. So that's good to have that reminded, I guess.
Yeah, so they, this year's the first year they bolted in Power Apps and Flow and Power BI. And the excitement in the air, just like, I kind of keep bringing up, right? The amount of excitement around these products is just crazy. So I've been here, I did a session on Power Apps, SharePoint Flow. Yesterday, I got to do my first formal MC gig. I got to MC a panel with a bunch of Microsoft Smarty Pants. So then tomorrow, what do I do tomorrow? I got another couple of sessions, and then, just getting to meet a lot of people, talking to, a lot of people are still trying to figure out, hey, what is this Power Apps thing? Why do I care about it? Or the Flow thing, and trying to start to bolt these pieces together. But at the same time, we're seeing a lot of these people. They're like, yeah, I saw a session yesterday. I went back to my hotel room and I built an app, and you guys weren't lying, right? I literally am changing the way we work based off this 1 hour session. So it's pretty fun. It's an interesting time to be in the space.
Well, that's good. So for those of you that have been following Shane and I's career for the past decade or however long it's been, Phoenix was the first place I believe that I flooded a hotel room and nearly killed Shane. I think that's where I started that trend.
Oh, it was. And funny enough, I'm in the same hotel.
Yes.
And so, do you remember you took one of your profile pictures for a conference you were going to in Europe?
Yep.
At this hotel. So they've revamped that area. Apparently, after you sullied it, they
didn't want anybody to see my picture, and make that connection, so they tore it all down.
But yeah, yesterday I was looking for somebody. I was looking for Ted Pattison's. Ted Pattison's here, right? He's doing a lot with Power BI right now. So I was meeting him for dinner, and as I was kind of walking in circles, I'm like, oh, that's where that one of Todd's early selfies was. So yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yep. Oh, the good times of flooding the bathroom and not telling Shane, so that bleary-eyed at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say this is one of those conferences that I was skeptical about coming to, because I'm always skeptical about new conferences. I've been burned enough by those things.
Yeah.
But I'm digging it. I think the people that put the show on have done a good job. I think there's lots of good activity. They got a lot of big names in from Microsoft was really pretty heavily invested in it. So, the panel, we had Clay, who is the product manager for CDS and Power Apps. We had Weirzy, Kent, he's the smart guy in the Flow space. We had Brian Dang, who is just one of the coolest people you'd ever meet. Howie, who I'd never met before, but apparently he invented Excel and DAX and that type of stuff.
I'm the guy that invented Excel. Maybe you've heard of me, seen my work.
Yeah, and then Siva, who is kind of the godfather of Power BI. So, a lot of just heavy hitters running around here. Steven Siciliano is here. He's the head engineering dude for Flow. So, turns out he's a Tesla owner. So, I've always never been able to really connect with him. And then I was telling him about the flows I wrote to work with my Tesla.
Yep.
We're BFFs now.
Yep.
We might have made out a little bit. I don't know.
Well, and that'll happen between Tesla owners. You have to spend a lot of time at charging stations. You get bored.
Yeah.
So a couple things. Number one, it doesn't like there's a lot of cool people there, so I have to wonder what the hell you're doing there. So that's a question. The Tesla stuff is fun. I think I emailed you the Teslafy thing. I've been loving that. So for any Tesla owners that are listening, you can go to a website, teslafi.com. And it's this great site that does the thing that I was trying to do. When Shane and I were doing the API stuff here a couple of months ago, we kind of had different goals. Shane's was to make an Power App to control stuff. Mine was kind of to pull data and look at trends. And so I lost Shane, but that's okay because I can do that. There we go. And so this Teslafy website is pretty cool. It pulls the logs and stuff off of your car, and then it tells you how efficient your charging was, how efficient your trips were, and that kind of stuff. And I drove my Tesla for the first time in the cold, in the wind, coming home from Kansas City this weekend, which is our next point, and rolled into the charging station with 5 miles left on the battery. And I was expecting to roll in with 100 miles left on the battery. So it was, then I looked back and my efficiency on that drive was like 63%. So, yeah. So that's great, because and that website's got all that stuff, and I can get the temperature and the wind. It's a lot of fun.
So heads up, while you're in that rant, but that explanation that I actually wanted to hear for once, I was trying to listen to. We lost connection for a while, so
Yep.
just so you know. But yeah, the Teslafy seems like really interesting. I look forward to your report here in about another month or so. But
Yeah.
You will find the rude part of the whole Tesla ownership when it gets to be zero out. That battery
Yep.
doesn't do what it used to do.
Yeah, and I mean, I've got friends in town. I've got friends that had Tesla, so this was not a surprise necessarily, but I did not plan for it. So we were driving from Kansas City to Council Bluffs, which is 160 miles, something like that. And I was not really watching my charging because I knew it's like 160, 170 miles, and hit a supercharger. The other thing that I did, and I don't know if you've made this mistake or not, is not all Tesla superchargers are equal. And so Kansas City has two of them, has one in Independence and one in North Kansas City. And I'd been to the one in Independence a bunch. And I try to go to as many as I can. I take pictures every time I charge my car. I'm a real nerd. But I had some time, and I'm like, oh, I need to charge. I'll just go to the one in North Kansas City. That one is a 50 kilowatt charger, whereas the one in Independence is a 125 kilowatt charger. So it charges at about a third of the speed as the other one. Ugh. So whereas I was charging, at 300 miles an hour or so at Independence, I was charging at like 100 in North Kansas City. But I'm like, that's okay, because I got like 260 miles of range. It's 160 miles to Council Bluffs. There's no need for me to sit here for another half an hour and charge. Off I go. Yeah, rolled into Council Bluffs with 5 miles left in the tank.
Yeah.
So that's I knew it was coming, but I just didn't understand exactly how bad. So we'll be bumping that daily charge from 80 to 90% maybe.
So what had you head to Kansas City? What were you doing out there?
Well, that's a funny story. My wife is a big Foo Fighters fan, and
Okay.
we've seen the Foo Fighters a few times. And we saw them there 3 years ago, but it was right after Dave Grohl broke his ankle, so he was in the throne and had the wheelchair and all that, which was a great show. The man put on a hell of a show for a guy whose foot was busted. And if you haven't already heard the story, I won't bore you all with it. But the way that happened is he was like 2 songs into a concert in Sweden, fell off the stage, broke his ankle during the concert, finished the concert sitting on stage with a paramedic holding his ankle still so that he could go have it operated on right after the concert. I mean, there is nothing more metal than breaking your damn foot during a concert and finishing out the concert. So for that one, he got operated on. They skipped a couple of concerts because he was in the hospital, but then they finished the tour out, and he had like a little boot that he wore, and then he made a throne that he sat in while he played. It was crazy. Anyway, so we saw him there 3 years ago when that happened. Wasn't at his top of his game. We saw him a couple years ago when they were in Des Moines, and he had cold that day. Still gave a hell of a show, but this was like our first time to see them when everybody was in good health. It was a great show. There's about 1 million videos on YouTube. At the end of the show, towards the end of the show, they pulled this 10-year-old kid out of the audience, and they're like, hey, you were holding up a sign that says you can play guitar. Can you really play guitar? And the kid's like, I know some Metallica songs. And so they give this kid a guitar, and he starts cranking out Metallica songs, and the band kicks in with him. And they gave him the guitar, and where my wife and I were sitting, I could see the stage. So him and his brother were sitting off to the side of the stage for the rest of the concert, hanging out with the band. It's pretty cool. That was pretty cool of them. But anyway, so we get done with the concert, and then we had somebody watching the kids for the weekend. So we get back to the hotel room. It's like 12:30. My wife's getting ready for bed, and I'm going through Facebook, just kind of looking through, and I see Stacy Deer Stroll, I forget. I see her on Facebook, and she's like, hey, I'm doing a keynote tomorrow morning, but I'm not asleep yet. I need to whatever. And her location is Overland Park, Kansas. And I'm like, Overland Park, Kansas? That's just down the street. What is? Sure enough, there was a SharePoint Saturday in Kansas City that next day that I had just completely missed. So at like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, I signed up for it, and I crashed SharePoint Saturday, Kansas City. 6 hours later, something like that. And it was a good time. So Mike Fitzmaurice was there, Jared Shockley was there, obviously Stacy was there. I'm blanking on her name. Does the Power Apps user group? Geez, how embarrassing for me. And I think I know what it is, but I don't want to mispronounce it. April Dunham was there, just a whole bunch of people. So it was great. I just walked in, and when I walked in, I can't remember who it was at the desk. They're like, oh, and they go to get the name tags, and they walk over to the speaker table. I'm like, I don't have a speaker badge. He's like, why are you not speaking? And I'm like, because 7 hours ago, I didn't even know this thing existed. I'm a little behind the times. But it was a good show. So I got to hang out with some friends and sat in on a couple sessions. It was a good time.
Nice. Well, that's pretty fun. You just kind of snuck that in your trip. And then if you do it correctly, you should now write off the entire trip to taking your wife to the concert, right? The hotel, the car, the travel, the food. That's all now business write-offs.
It was. I absolutely handed out business cards and made business deals. Absolutely, without any wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It absolutely. Yeah.
I wasn't wink, wink, nudge, nudging. I was on board. So.
Yeah. So I did apologize profusely to the people at SharePoint Saturday, Kansas City, for not paying better attention and being a more active part of that, because they put on a great show. There's a bunch of people there, lots of great stuff, and I felt bad that I didn't support them better.
Well, they should have, as longtime listeners of this show, they should have said, hey, why aren't you guys promoting us in the community corner?
Yeah, well, and I did tell them, so I was talking to them, like, by all means, pester me about this in the future, and don't take, I didn't reply to you as an answer, just keep pestering me. I give you permission ahead of time. So, but that was a good time, so thanks to all those folks there.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of thanks, we want to say thanks to our good friends at App River.
Oh, we love App River.
Dude, they're doing a great job helping us make this show possible.
And
I'd like to say they funded
safe.
this wonderful room, yeah. Now, if we could just figure out a way to get App River to make me safe from people like Sling, maybe we'd be in better shape. But
there's only so much they can do.
I know. So they are great, though, at protecting your Office 365, your email, anti-phishing, spam. And they're really their target, though, right? Is they don't want to sell to direct to consumers. They want to sell to you guys who are reselling to your customers. They want to be your middleman.
Yeah.
And middleman sounds yucky. It has a bad connotation.
It does.
But in this case, it's what you need. You need somebody to sit between your company who wants to focus on customers and Microsoft who wants to focus on just the mechanics, right? You need that support bridge, and that's what these guys do a great job of. So
and
check them out if you haven't.
And we've talked about this before. They have been doing this forever, decades. Like, they're not some Johnny-come-lately. They're not hitting the Office 365 gold rush. They are people who've been doing SharePoint and Exchange and Office 365 since the beginnings, and just figuring out pain points that customers have and making great products to fill those in. So you can go to toddclint.com/appriver. That'll bounce you to our page, and you can find out all kinds of stuff about them. They'd love to talk to you. Tell them that Todd and Shane sent you. It'll get you absolutely nothing. They probably won't even remember who we are. They've got so many great people there, but makes us feel important.
That gets us our friends at App River. What do we have? So now that we're a half hour in the show, so it looks like we have our first news thing, the thing that people I think come to the show for. If you come to the show for news at this point, you messed up.
I can't believe that's the case at all. I assume they just left the page open on Twitter or on YouTube, and it just happens. So last week I was cruising around the internet, and your friend and mine, Bill Bear, posted some stuff. The new SharePoint admin site in Office 365 is coming soon, coming very soon. If it's not out already, he posted this on the 12th. That was 5 days ago. So it might be out. But basically, they've been threatening for months now to revamp the SharePoint Admin Center in Office 365, and it needed it. It needed a fresh coat of paint, but also there's just a bunch of things you can't do there. The old SharePoint Admin Center doesn't understand groups and things like that, hub sites and all kinds of fun stuff. And so that's all going to be out there. And you've been able to kind of take it for a test run for a while, and now I think they're going to make that the default. So I posted a web page here in the chat room. You can also, if you're listening to this in your car or whatever, go to toddclint.com/podcast406, and you can get the link there. But it's got all the notes, Bill, lots of screenshots on what great things they've added to this the new admin page.
Very cool. Yeah, I need to check that out. It's we've had quite a few SharePoint so people through Power Apps said, like, hey, can you also help us with SharePoint? We're like, wait, we don't do that anymore. Yeah, of course we can.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so one of the things I've been fighting with that I don't think we're ready to dive into on this show, but we will on a future one, is saving these new sites as template. Right? We've had save site as template since SharePoint 2003.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden it's gone in SharePoint Online, and so it looks like you have to do it with PnP PowerShell, and it's more about templatizing a site that you have. So I don't know. I haven't gotten deep enough in the mechanics yet, but but it's been a common question, and man, I really just need to get in there and solve it because it comes up a lot lately.
Yep, I do that a lot. So yeah, you and I can talk about it because I've had to do that for some customers. So there's some rough edges, but it's mostly doable, and doable in a better way than it was before once you get your head wrapped around it. So we can put that on a later show.
Yeah, it's just a little preview, right, of something Shane needs to learn about. So Shane's going to learn about, and then Todd and I will discuss, and you guys can mock me for not understanding it.
Well, and that's fun because the next thing I have in the notes is what I call notes from the field. So just kind of stuff, things that I've been working with some customers on that I haven't blogged and don't know if I will blog, but just kind of little talking points that I didn't know immediately when the customers brought it up. One of them was a customer was asking me what happens to a user's OneDrive when you unlicense them. Not delete them. They still exist in AD. They still exist in Azure AD. You show up with people searches, but you've just taken their license away. What happens to their OneDrive? Because we all know what happens when you delete a user. Like that process is very well known. You know, if they've got a manager, the manager gets an email and they can take it over and it gets deleted after so many days. That whole thing is very scripted, very well understood. But what was not as well laid out is what happens if you don't delete them, you just take their license away. And turns out, both with some research and some experimentation on my part, I think the rule of thumb is unlicensing them, they're treated exactly the same way as if you delete them. So think of that as being the same. And I think as I was talking to the customer about it and as I was doing the research, it makes perfect sense. Each user gets a 1 terabyte OneDrive, and the way that disk space and all that stuff gets paid for is by that license. And so if you unlicense a user, you know, Microsoft's just not going to give you that space anymore. And so that's kind of, I think, the rationale behind that. Now, the reason that this came up was because they had a user who had a very important / frequently used document that they had shared out of their OneDrive with some people. That person had been unlicensed, had moved on or moved to another part of the company or something. People kept still using that document, and then one morning it was gone. It wasn't there anymore. And so it took them a while, because the end users, they don't pay attention to that. They don't care where it's at. They've got a link, they open it, the file's there. It shows up in the recently used files all the time. They don't think about it. And so it took a while to track down what had happened. And they were like, well, we didn't delete this person. They're still in there. And so then I got to talk about, well, this is the life cycle of a document. Documents are born in OneDrive. They're a twinkle in somebody's eye, and you do some things, and then you move it to something else. And so it was a good discussion point. Did I lose you? Oh, no, you're still there.
Oh, I think I'm back. Yeah, you kind of got all crazy.
I've always been all crazy. I might be losing you again.
Oh. How about now?
Yeah, you're good. Did you have anything to add on the OneDrive thing, or did you miss it?
I missed most of it, but I was laughing because you talked about the users not really knowing, or it felt like my credit card story all over again. You know, it was just going on in the background, and one day they're like, "Wait, that file's not there," and I was like, "Wait, there's a charge there." It's the same type of story. So.
Yep, and so Mark Chrisman kind of put it succinctly in the chat room, and this is why publishing a widely used document in OneDrive instead of SharePoint Online is a really bad idea, and that's exactly it. So just keeping an eye on that. So that was one thing. Another one that was interesting was I'm rolling this out to a customer, and they're moving from file shares to SharePoint Online, and that is just a gigantic leap. That is just a huge jump in functionality and completely different environment. And so there's just a lot of basic questions because these people have nothing to build on top of. They've been using file shares forever. And one of the questions that came up was how they could figure out what sites they have access to. And this is something that has always kind of plagued SharePoint, and this is one reason we had subsites instead of site collections, because it was easy to discover things. And so immediately, being a back-end server guy, I'm thinking of all these ways and things and PowerShell and PNP and all that. And one of the consultants that I'm working with, he's like, well, you just do a search. I'm like, but how do you know what to search for? You know, it's the unknown unknowns, right? How do you know this? He's like, well, you go into search and you search for star, and then you set the scope to sites, and it just kicks back all the sites you have access to. I'm like, yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, that works really well. So, you know, once you've been in Office 365 and you start going to sites, they start showing up in the recent lists, and of course you can follow sites, so they show up. But just for basic discovery of what sites you have access to, Yeah, it seems to work like a champ. Just search for star, set the scope to sites, and everything you have access to just pops up.
Nice.
It's a nice little trick. And I'm like, how did I not? Why am I? Nobody tells me anything around here. Why am I just finding out about this? This is crap.
If you'd get people to fill out their TPS reports.
Oh, goodness. So a similar one was, again, these users have not been dealing with SharePoint and all the amazing things that it does. There have been a bunch of documents that have shown up as checked out that people don't think about checking in and checking out. So then they open the document up, and then if the app doesn't catch it, then they try to save it, and they can't save it because Jimmy next door has it checked out. And so one of the quick questions that they had as they were trying to figure this whole workflow out is, how do I discover what documents are checked out? And these folks have document libraries that have thousands of documents in them. So scrolling through and looking for the little green arrow, not much of a solution. And so what I came up with was we just made a custom view. And when you make a custom view, you can say, show the checked out to column, because that doesn't normally show up. And then you can say filter by, is checked out to not equal empty. And then it shows you all the documents where checked out to is equal to somebody, and just shows up. And so then they can go through, click, discard checkout if it's somebody else's, check in if it's theirs. Now, the bad news with that solution is that it only is scoped at that document library level, so you have to reproduce that everywhere. It's kind of a pain, but for them, it worked. And the other thing that I came up with was a search query where you could do a search for all the documents that were checked out. And that was a tricky one because of the way search works. If the checked out to field is empty, like, it doesn't get crawled because search doesn't care. If there's no value there, search doesn't pay attention. So then you can't search for not empty, and you can't search for star just because of the way, and it makes sense once you deconstruct how search works. So what I ended up finding out with some help from some folks, Michael and some other folks, is that if you do a search for where checked out to contains membership, all of the users in the background say, membership, whatever, and so that will show you all the ones that have an active username in there. So then I could do a search term, and then that could be at the site level, and it would show you all the documents that were checked out. The downside to that one is there's not the easy click, check in, or discard checkout. You have to go to it, but that does it at the Skype, this site level. So, did you have something?
I was just say, isn't it crazy? Like, there's so many of these things that you can do. It's just a matter of untangling the puzzle as to the way that the person who implemented that feature decided that particular use case should be done, right? It's I don't know. It comes up all the time with this stuff. It comes up especially on like flow and things. I'm like, assume that you can do what you want to do. You just aren't smart enough yet. You just haven't solved the riddle of the 17 steps it might take to do.
Yep. And in the chat room, a couple of people have fought this fight before. Eric and Kyle, looks like both, and Mark have mentioned that ShareGate has a report on this, that ShareGate SysKit does, I'm sure, also. The problem with those reports is they're not something that the end user can do, and they're not real time, essentially. So, if Amy in HR wants to save a document or wants to find out if a document's checked out or not, those reports don't do her any good at that moment. She needs to be able to go into the document library and see it. So that was immediately my thing. I'm like, there's tools that can get all those reports. And like, well, that is great to tell me what documents were checked out yesterday. I want to know what's checked out right now.
Yeah. Another thing you might look at in the same space, I had notes from the field also in this kind of same thing, was I had a customer who, for better or for worse, mostly for worse, uses task lists all over their SharePoint site. So they have literally hundreds of different task lists where they actually actively use and track tasks.
Okay.
So today, you just defined all your open tasks. They literally you have to go check all the sites that that someone could have possibly given you a task for and find them that way. Not an ideal solution, but the CEO is a big fan of tasks, so they kind of live with it.
Yeah.
So what I figured out, though, is in the modern SharePoint pages, there is a web part. Right? You have different web parts between modern pages and classic pages.
Maddening, yeah.
Yes. So in the modern ones, there is a web part called highlighted content.
Yeah.
And so I figured out that with a little bit of elbow grease and some creativity around the filters, like you just said, we were able to search his entire SharePoint environment with this web part and just return that user's task that did not have a status of completed. It was it was right. It seems so simple, and if I showed you what I came up with, like, yeah, duh, it was easy. But it took me a couple hours of this filter, this test data to work out all the math to get this highlighted content part to just easily roll up all the tasks. Yeah, it was fascinating.
Yep, and I tried to go that route with the highlighted content with the checked out documents, but the field that is, it's like checkout user or whatever, was not a field that I could do the filter on.
Yep.
So that was my first thought as well, but it did not pan out for me. So that was a fun one, and again, just kind of, that's one I felt like I should have known. Like your task list, that should have taken half the time that it took for me to figure out. So hopefully, if I mention this, it'll kick in someone's head, and when they get it a year from now, it'll take them half the time.
That web part will be gone. There'll be some new way.
That's true. That's true. And the other one, and this is just a fun one. The company I've been working with this particular thing, again, came all from file shares, and they had to check documents out because it was all file shares and email documents. So just all the horrible things we hate. So I was doing some demos and some training with them, and I showed them the multiple user editing in Excel, and like they thought it was witchcraft. Like they thought I had just made it up. Like it couldn't be possible. Like it was that whole thing as you're watching them move through the stages. They kept having to repeat like, so two people can be in an Excel. No, two people at the same time in the so me and two other people on the IT team were in an Excel document at the same time. You could see, Todd did this, and it was just blowing their minds. And I'm like, this is the cool stuff that you guys have now. And it's just, I love that feeling. It's always fun.
Yep. So, all right, that gets us through all of your news and notes from the field. I kind of like that segment. That was a nice little makeup. It was
a good week, yeah.
You guys be happy to know that since I've tweeted, Sling has been responding to me, and they basically said, yeah, we can't help you either. Yeah. I'm like, so what was the point of this conversation? So I'm DMing with one of their guys. I'm about to tell him, well, thanks for looking. And I apologize now because I'm going to declare war on you on Twitter. And you are the ones going to have to deal with it. So, sorry.
Yeah.
I feel bad. It's not his problem, but it's his company. So.
Yeah.
All right. So, on a happier note, Todd and I were talking pre-show about, I don't know how I think we were making fun of like what time it was here. Like, I mean, because it's 8:44 a.m. I got up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, which is really like 7 tomorrow. And I don't know.
I'm not even sure what time it is where I'm at now. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But so one of the weird thoughts that I had a few days ago, because one of our customers is in New Zealand.
Yep.
So right, he's 16 hours plus,
mm-hmm.
which turns out to actually not a bad number. I can kind of make that work.
Yeah.
But so with him, that night I was thinking, every now and then I back off and I try to like understand like the universe, right? I mean, just like when you're trying to like comprehend. I mean, we're just not intelligent enough creatures to really comprehend things like how far Mars is from us, right? I mean, it's just it's not. It's years away from us, right? Those are really weird concepts if you start trying to like wrap your head around things like that.
Yep.
The other one I try to wrap my head around is the whole idea, right? The universe is expanding. I think everyone understands that, the universe is slowly, very slowly, but is expanding away from us. And so there are places in the universe that are so far away and that are expanding and moving away from us that we'll never be able to see because they're further away than light can travel, right? I mean, it's like this weird. Okay, anyway, we're not here to talk about astrophysics.
And thank God for that.
But these are the type of things that every now and then pop into my head, and like I get stuck and lost in trying to comprehend. And then I was like, and what's really sad is like I can't even tell you like what day or time it is for our planet, right? So if you start thinking about the universe, right? Because, right? If someone said, what time is it on Earth, right? So like if aliens are invading, what time is it on Earth right now? There's not a...
Zulu time. If you're in the military, Zulu time.
Sure, but but that's just a made-up construct too. I mean, I don't know. I got really wrapped around the axle on, where and when and how and the enormity of it all. So I don't know. It's just a stupid random thought I had. I figured you could make fun of me for not comprehending, but
The time zone struggles are real. You and I have struggled with that for years because you live in some weird time zone that's not central, and so it's all backwards and dumb and yeah.
Best is in my time zone, whatever.
I've been working with a customer, and I don't want to say where they're at, but they're what I would consider east of me, and you're in Eastern, I'm in Central, and they feel like they should be in your time zone, except they claim that they're not. And we argue about this all the time. They tell me what time they think it is there, and I tell them how they're wrong because they're not in my time zone. When they think that they are, I'll be like, no, all right, it's 10:47 here. What time is it there? And they're like, it's 10:47 here. I'm like, no, it can't be. You are too far east. You think you're in the same time zone as me, but you're not. We will fix this later. So yeah, it's happens all the time.
What do you do? All right, so there you go. That was Shane's randomness for the week.
Do we have time for your video?
Sure, real quick. So this last week I put out a video on Power Apps string functions. For Todd and I, right, in the PowerShell space, this is very near and dear to our hearts because you get data back in terrible ways, and you got to find ways to parse it: the lefts, the rights, the links, the finds,
trims. Last index ofs.
There you go. Yeah. And so, unfortunately, Power Apps has probably got the best set of functions for that in the universe. So if you've gotten well versed in the Power Apps space, you kind of in the PowerShell space, you've gotten spoiled, right? So like when I moved over to Power Apps and started doing these type of things, there's really only left, right, mid, link, and find. There's replace, but replace is dumb, and there's substring, or substitute, which is substring in PowerShell. Anyway, so I put together a video because these are one of the skills I think that a lot of people are like, it's dumb and boring and hard. Why would I do that? But man, I can't tell you how many times it saved my bacon. The fact that I can sit down and with a lot of pain and suffering, I can tear through a string and make it do what I want in a programmatic way. Right? That's the key is figuring out where is the third comma is a lot harder of a question than right there on my screen.
Yep.
So. Yep. I don't know, I just still like put it together.
I was doing that too. Part of this migration is walking through some files and pulling in input files and all that, and then trying to make logs and make the output make sense. So yeah, taking any number of different types of strings and saying, okay, this is going to be the file name. This is always going to be the extension. Yeah, I've been doing some of that recently this week too. A lot of fun. Gets the brain going. Going to keep me from getting dementia early. I do my crossword puzzles every morning. Do my string manipulation. That's what keeps the old noggin working.
String manipulation definitely does.
Yep. All right, so let's move on. We do the little thing we call Community Corner. We talk about different groups, and this week I wanted to highlight a group. A friend of mine stepped out, and you might know him too. Stacy Simpkins works at our old place. Been a friend for a while. He has a Tampa Bay SharePoint user group, and they meet in Tampa, Florida, quarterly. Wednesday or Thursday, depending on what's going on. They probably won't meet, with Thanksgiving and those kind of things. But Stacy asked me to give him a shout out on the show, and I said I would be delighted to. And if you are in the area, you can go to tbspug.com, Tampa Bay SharePoint User Group.com, and tell them that we sent you, and give them a little love. I don't know if they're looking for speakers or just people to show up and hang out, but you can go to their website. Tell Stacy hi for me. He's a hell of a guy. Written some fun books, just fun to talk to. So. Happy to hear from him. Cool.
Yeah, I found out this week that Tampa Bay's got a pretty vibrant Power BI, Power Apps and Flow user group kind of story going on down there too.
Awesome.
So Tampa Bay is apparently a hot spot for user groups.
There we go. Did I flood any hotel rooms in Tampa Bay when we were down there? We stayed in separate rooms that trip, so.
Yeah, we always stayed at a really nice hotel down there, so maybe not.
Yeah. We have other stories from that we can't tell on the podcast, but that.
Well, having dinner with Ted last night, though, I got to have rehashed a lot of those. But, and you weren't there the very first time I ever did a class in Tampa. They have this party district called Ybor City. It's like mini New Orleans. What do you call that? Like the Bourbon Street.
Oh, gotcha.
Kind of that same setup, same thing. And so the very first time I taught a class down there, the place that I taught at was like one block removed from that. So the hotel I stayed at was there. And it was, it was cooler and hipper than I was. So I just stayed in my hotel room with the door locked.
Most things are. Yeah.
So all right. So, just a reminder, October 24th, we've got the launch of the Power Apps and Flow Cincinnati user group. Myself, Todd Baginski, and the infamous Brian Dang from Microsoft will all be there to help kick this thing off. So, very excited about that.
Yeah, don't pull anything dropping names there. I'm just saying.
I can't help it. My user groups are cooler than you.
Yeah, yes. Yep. And then, so a week from this Friday, I'm teaching an admin workshop in Omaha. There's still some seats available to that. I talked to the guys that set that up this morning. We got a couple of seats left. You can go out there. I've got a blog post on it also, but you can go out there all day. We're just going to sit around. We're going to talk about on-prem SharePoint. We're going to talk about SharePoint Online, admin things. It's going to be a good time. It's at the Microsoft office there in Omaha, October 26th. So go ahead and sign up for that.
And that's sneaking up when you just reminded me of. So, yesterday I had my first session for this conference, and I was sitting at breakfast, and I opened up a blank PowerPoint, started writing it. And Daniel was sitting there with me, and he kind of freaked out a little. He's like, I might have been done for a month, and I've tweaked them 17 times since. I was like, yeah, Todd and I have this dynamic. Todd likes to prepare and, know what's going on and be really thorough. And I like to just show up and do stuff. And, yeah, so if you're going to hang around me in this space, you just need to accept that the morning of, I might not have the presentation, but it'll work itself out.
It's a good balance. You and I come at that from completely different angles, and somehow it works. So I can't complain.
And Daniel didn't have to risk his life and be on stage with me. So I think that's why he was mostly okay with it. But I just made sure he understood that this wasn't an anomaly.
Nope.
Yeah, the session that I'm delivering tomorrow, I don't even know that part of the tech yet. So I maybe figure it out at some point.
Situation normal.
So then SharePoint Saturday Cincinnati is October 27th. I will be doing the same session that I just made up yesterday. I'll be doing that at SharePoint Saturday. So you'll be the second audience to see it if you come check that out. But that'll be a lot of fun. Oh man, I'm still up.
You are.
There's also in November we are doing a Power Apps and Flow training with Power Apps 911. I'm going to be teaching a live course on. There's like a one-day class that is kind of helping you if you've never done anything with Power Apps or Flow, and then there's a 4-day class which is more around, hey, I kind of have done this before, but I don't really know what I'm doing. So trying to kind of get you more comfortable so you can start to know all the places that you need to do. So if you mention the podcast, we'll get you a nice little, I don't know, 10% discount or something like that. So sign up. It'll be fun.
Yeah, keeping up that in December, I'm going to be in Slovenia teaching some stuff at the Thrive Conference. You can go to thriveconf.com and sign up for that. I'm going to be doing an all-day session with my friend Robbie, and then doing a couple sessions during the week. I can't remember for sure which ones they are. Again, many months away, long time before I have to write those. But that is a good time. And then get to hang out in Slovenia and Croatia for a couple days. The Siskit folks are in Zagreb, Croatia. So I'm going to go over there for a couple days and hang out. They got a new office. I haven't seen it since they just opened that. So just running around Eastern Europe, hanging out with my friends. Had a discussion with my daughter last night. We were driving home from something. And there's a road in Ames that's named after a famous Ames citizen. And so we were talking about that, and then there's a Todd Drive in Ames. I'm like, well, little known fact, Todd Drive in Ames is named after me. She's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, it's Todd Drive. She's like, it's probably named after like Mary Todd Lincoln or something like that. I'm like, she's not from Ames. Why would they name it after her in Ames? That doesn't make any sense. She's like, well, like nobody in Florida knows who you are. I'm like, oh yeah, people in Florida know who I am. And she's like, name one person in Florida that knows who you are. I'm like, Randy Driscoll. She's like, well, name another person in Florida that knows who you are. I'm like, Andrew Connell. She's like, well, name a kid in Florida that knows who you are. I'm like, Ben Ross. And you could just tell, like, she just can't. I'm like, I can play this game the whole ride home, kid.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy that, yeah. And I've got friends who are like, name somebody in Croatia that knows you. You know, Tony. Name somebody else. Maya. So it was funny. She didn't know what to think about that.
I was working the Microsoft booth last night, and a couple of people came up from Croatia with a flow question. Or no, CDS question. Whatever, you don't care what question ask.
Nope.
Anyway, I thought about leading with, hey, you're from Croatia. Do you know, so-and-so, just because.
Because it's so obnoxious, yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean there's not just 5 people that live in that country? Right? How many people live in Scotland? Well,
there's me.
My brother.
We're going to be here all night.
don't ask stupid questions, people. So I don't know. It was cracking me up with this idea of like, it would not have been funny. They'd been like stupid American. So that's why I didn't do it. But in my head, it was a really funny game to go play.
Yeah. We got one more on the promotion list.
Yeah, North American Collaboration Summit, right in good old Branson, Missouri, whatever that is. I still don't know how I get there. I think there's a horse buggy carriage that goes on there. I don't know.
It's very charming. Good antiquing down there. Very charming.
So I will be out there. That's in March. I'm doing a session on Power Apps and Flow and all Azure SQL stuff apparently. And I'm still waiting on Todd Quinn to get confirmation that he's going to do a session out there also.
I need to email Mark Rackley. He's probably forgotten all about me. He's given up on me, I'm sure.
Yeah, so you can play the game. Name someone you know that's from, is he from Branson or is he from?
He's from Arkansas. He's from around there. He doesn't live right in Branson, but he's.
That's what I thought. I was going to say. Okay, I know he's a big Arkansas Razorbacks fan, and every week when they find a new way to lose, he cries a little.
So speaking of that, I was watching some coverage of the Dolphins-Bears game over the weekend, and one of the guys said, the Dolphins were doing their damnedest to give the game to the Bears, but the Bears wouldn't take it. And I'm like that is a great explanation of how that game ended up.
Well, and I would like to point out that I was a kind person and did not bring up the certain game that happened, so we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Still dark days here. Yeah, and I told the kids about it the next morning, and I'm like, the Chiefs lost on the last play, like 4 seconds left in the game. I mean, it was very sad. But all right, folks. With 58 minutes, I think we're good. I don't know if you got much. So thanks, everybody. I will get 4:05 out here within the next couple hours. I got to go eat me some lunch. And but then Shane will be back. I think we're both in next week, I think.
My plan is not to travel the rest of the year. So that is my fingers are crossed that works out like that. But that is my plan.
All right. Well, hopefully so. So we will see you all next week. And if you're still listening, you're a saint. If you got a user group you want us to promote, by all means, let us know. Conferences, whatever. We'd love to help. So, all right, everybody. You have a good week. Shane and I will talk to you later. Go knock 'em dead. Go write that presentation for goodness sakes. All right.
Tomorrow. See ya.
All right, man. I will let you go. Lori will not be here next week, so it will be a train wreck.
Go retweet my swing thing. Just so they've been responding, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not gonna do anything for you." So
which one? So I retweeted.
Did you?
I retweeted one of them, but you've probably been on a.
No, so I've been DMing with them. I'm trying to take the high road here. Okay, you did that one. Thank you.
Yeah. So let me know if there's any other.
Well, that's we're like I said, I'm gonna get my $600 one way or another, and it might be the ugly. I'll write a flow that just daily tweets. Why would I do daily? I do like every 10 minutes. I'm gonna get my money's out of this.
Yep. Anybody in the chat room, if you want to curry favor with Shane, forward his tweet, retweet his tweet.
I don't ever ask you to do ones, that are business stuff, but when it comes to personal, my $500, that's important. All right, go enjoy your lunch. I got a thing. Yep.
Get out of here. See you, man. Oh, I messed that up. That camera's not available. That camera's not available. Oh, there it is. All right, folks. What an incredible mess this is. Thanks, everybody. And I'll be in the chat room for a little bit, but I will see you guys next week. Bye.